Joe Rogan has another apology video that came out over the weekend as a result of more videos of the things he's said that have come out. So with that said, let's dive into the second edition of his apology.
Hello, friends. I'm making this video to talk about the most regretful and shameful thing that I've ever had to talk about publicly. There's a video that's out that's a compilation of me saying the N-word. It's a video that's made of clips taken out of context of me of 12 years of conversations on my podcast, and it's all smushed together, and it looks horrible, even to me. Now, I know that to most people, there's no context where a white person is ever allowed to say that word, never mind publicly on a podcast. And I agree with that now. I haven't said it in years, but for a long time, when I would bring that word up, like if it would come up in conversation, instead of saying the N-word, I would just say the word. I thought as long as it was in context, people would understand what I was doing. Like that context was part of the clip we were talking about Red Fox, how Red Fox said that word on television in the 1970s and how times have changed so much since then. Or about how Richard Pryor used it as one of the titles of one of his albums. Or I was quoting a Lenny Bruce bit, or I was quoting a Paul Mooney bit, or I was talking about how Quentin Tarantino used it repeatedly in Pulp Fiction. Or I was talking about how a Netflix executive, ironically, used it because he was trying to compare it to another offensive word, and he said it out loud, and they fired him. Not calling anybody or just saying the word out loud.
Okay, so look, he starts off, Adrienne, by saying it's shameful, it's the worst thing. He said it looks terrible, even to him, and then he attempts to add the context to it. We've previously talked a little bit about this on the show, but we haven't spoken about it with you. So what do you think about the context that he described in that video?
Oh, I think it's just a cop-out. If you're going to have so many videos removed by virtue of you just saying a word that you claim is essentially been taken out of context to some extent, it's like, no, there's a bigger problem here, especially because often it definitely seems that he doesn't seem to fully appreciate that the people he was quote unquote quoting, essentially it's okay if they use the word, or if it's okay if they speak like Richard Pryor. There's a reason that certain people are using that term, but that doesn't mean that you get licensed to use it.
Yeah, well, look, let me say what I think the context that makes it okay is. No, because it doesn't matter. And like he just needs to learn, like it's not about like stop trying to. Also, context seems like the context he's talking about seems a bit broad. Like, like if look, I would not say it if I were quoting someone. I understand in years past some people did do that. We can debate whether that was ever acceptable or whatever. It sounds like his defenders make it seem as if that's the context he's talking about. He was directly quoting someone. And some of the examples that he gave, he says he was quoting people. But sometimes it seemed like he was just, well, we're talking about the fact that somebody said it. So while talking about this, I'm gonna say it. That doesn't seem like it's taken out of context. That seems like you kind of feel like you found like a hole that you can slip through to be able to say it. That doesn't, I don't know.
I think you're absolutely right. That's what he was doing. Taking that as an opportunity to say the word and to feel like he has license to say it in some way. It just kind of upped his shock jock brand. And the thing is you can't tell me that if he was comfortable saying it in a podcast, that he wasn't comfortable saying it when the public's not watching. So, it's like he had his ass out for a bit. We already know who he was.
Yeah, and by the way, I know, look, if you're watching this and you're a right winger or a big Joe Rogan fan or both, you're like, why are you trying to cancel? Well, first of all, have I ever said he should be banned from the internet? No, we're trying to add content. Like you guys love to say, no, what you don't get is that we love Rogan because they just debate things and they try to learn. Okay, what do you think we're trying to do right now? People think that the only person who's ever had a conversation is Joe Rogan. The only person who's ever been curious is Joe Rogan. Have you ever listened to another podcast other than Joe Rogan? That's what they're all about, actually. I'm not saying he should be banned. I'm saying we should be learning from this. And by the way, he at least wants you to believe that he is. He said it's terrible. He cringes when he sees it. Isn't it better to have this conversation? Like, we can debate, and I don't know, maybe you can weigh in whether that is good enough or whether that, well, that I guess we're even or whatever. But he does at least admit he hates it. There's no context. He wouldn't do it now, all that stuff. Is it like they're so mad that this is even being debated, but isn't this as worthy of debate as any other stupid interview that he's ever done in his show in the last 20 years?
I think it is, but it's one that's worthy of sincere debate where that person actually has some sense of self-reflection. And the fact that he joined Spotify and allowed a number of those videos or those audio clips, podcasts to remain online and accessible to many people, that tells you that it's not necessarily of I know better and now I'm doing better, as much as maybe I know better, I'm doing better, and my God, I got caught. Like, it just, I
so you don't buy the first part?
No,
like when
no,
he says
not particularly.
That it makes him cringe. Okay.
Oh no. I think easily he would say, well, that's just how it was. I think that that's exactly the same sentiment. It's just a matter of right now, Spotify is essentially under the microscope and people are picking it apart, and he is afraid that they might drop him or do something in some way that would affect his pocket. And so he's trying to sound sincere about it.
Yeah, I wonder. It's entirely possible that you're right, that behind the scenes there is that sort of pressure or those fears. Certainly publicly, Spotify has wanted to reassure the Rogan audience that, like, and we'll get to some of their comments, that he's literally like the most, like they will choose him over music, basically. Anyway, let's hear a little bit more and we'll continue to debate. What Adrienne and I are doing we're just having an authentic conversation. It's only ever been done once before on the internet. Anyway, so with that, here's a little bit more of the apology video.
Very unusual word, but it's not my word to use. I'm well aware of that now, but for years I used it in that manner. I never used it to be racist, because I'm not racist. But whenever you're in a situation where you have to say, I'm not racist, you up. And I clearly have up.
Yeah, I think so. Again, I would take issue with a little bit that I never used it to be racist. Again, it's not 100% on you. You seem to be missing the fact that just using it and using it casually and seeming comfortable with it, again, it's not up to you to define the intent 100%. But he says, he says that he failed or messed up or whatever. There is one other thing though, aside from just the use of the word, that we should jump into. So let's play one more video and get Adrienne's thoughts on this. This has to do with the Planet of the Apes anecdote that he told.
The clip from 11 years ago. I was telling a story on the podcast about how me and my friend Tommy and his girlfriend, we got really high. We were in Philadelphia and we went to go see Planet of the Apes. And we didn't know where we were going. We just got dropped off by a cab and we got dropped off in this all black neighborhood. And I was trying to make the story entertaining. And I said, we got out and it was like we were in Africa. It's like we were in Planet of the Apes. I did not, nor would I ever say that black people are apes, but it sure sounded like that. And I immediately afterwards said, that's a racist thing to say. Planet of the Apes wasn't even in Africa. I was just saying there's a lot of black people there. But then I went on to talk about what a positive experience it was and how much fun it was to go to see this movie in a black neighborhood. It wasn't a racist story, but it sounded terrible. And like I said, you can have clunky stories about anything, but not about race.
Adrienne, thoughts?
Oh, that's a spin of a lifetime. Like, it's a total racist story saying, oh, I was in the Planet of the Apes in a primarily black neighborhood. And this whole dance he's trying to do to spin this, get out of here, bro. You were leveraging racism and you were enjoying telling your story. I do also love how he decides to put in this thought that, oh, we were high, because when I get high, I get racist too. Yeah, right, bro. This is exactly who you are. No, you cannot spin this in a way to just say I was trying to be entertaining and it came off low-key racist, my bad. Yeah, right. You already showed who you were. We got it, thanks.
Yeah, just I get, look, I get why the time that something was said is referenced, and look, that is information that we can use with which to analyze it. But just for context, I looked. So it was 10 years ago. So it was 11 years ago. So it was 2011. Like Bridesmaids came out in 2011, and like Thor, like Hangover 2 came. Like it wasn't the 80s. Let's just bear in mind, it was like the same sort of context. Anyway, so those are his apologies. We've given our takes on them. I'm kind of surprised that they came because I am not used to people with his sort of fan base apologizing for literally anything. And that does not mean that we have to accept his apology. And it does not mean that he won't continue to do basically the same things. We have to bear all that in mind. The issue for me, and again, like if you're a right winger or a Joe Rogan fan, you assume, well, you hope that this will get canceled. No, I really don't care. I think it's weird that his show is like one of the most popular podcasts. I don't necessarily think that reflects 100% well on Americans or humans. But I'm not trying to get him canceled. Don't care. He doesn't have any effect on my life. The thing that bothers me a little bit more immediately, Adrienne, and I want your thoughts on this, is the reaction to all of this from his fans. Because he will say, oh my God, I looked at this stuff and it looks terrible. These stories look terrible. I would never do that. And we can debate to what extent he really means it, but he wants us to believe that was wrong and he will learn. That is not the impression I get from his fans. Like when the top comments, this is the 3 of the 4 top comments on that apology post are extreme ownership. They are desperate to cancel Joe. The attack is real. You're the man, Joe. Stay strong. First of all, those appear to all be from white avatars. I'm not 100% sure, and people can put up any image they want, but stay strong. What do you mean? I thought you they always say, no, he can learn, he can evolve. That's what's so great about him. He's open-minded. That guy doesn't want him to. He wants him to stay strong. Don't admit that it was wrong, because to these people, nothing he said was wrong. No learning is necessary. They don't want a guy who's curious and evolves. They want the guy who tells the Planet of the Apes story. And I'm not saying that's all of his fan base, but clearly that's a significant percentage of it. I don't know, what do you think?
No, you're absolutely right. The fact is that there are people out there who simply want individuals who can speak like this, who do not have to be self-aware, who don't have to regulate their speech so that they don't engage in racist antics that can be sexist without license. Like these people, these are who these people are, and this is their God. So no, they don't want to see you apologize, because they're going to have to acknowledge other people's feelings too. If you get to be up here on the stage and act a fool, then they get that license to do so too. And so it really shows you who these people are. And so when people tell me they're big fans of Joe Rogan, it's one of those like, okay, I already know who you are, I'm good.
Yeah, and look, there need to be shows for all sorts of people because there are all sorts of people. But we also do not have to buy into the branding and the public relations, which I've alluded to multiple times, that there are conversations on the internet. All of them are BS. This is authentic. This is what the only sort of conversation that is truly authentic is a white guy mostly talking to other rightish white guys and saying the things that rightish white guys want to hear. And I'm not saying that's the entirety of his audience, but that seems to be the most vocal defenders. I got news for you. There are other sorts of conversations that are authentic that don't sound anything like that. And his is not better because he's saying those things that you want to hear. That doesn't mean he should be canceled. But let's not just say like, and all the people who are like, they're just trying to come after him because finally there's someone drawing an audience who's like a real person. First of all, he is a multi-hundred millionaire and has been rich for longer than you've been alive. He ain't like any real person. Most people's jobs are not just sitting around for hours and hours and hours getting high and talking to right-wing celebrities. That is not actually authentic. By the way, there are a lot of other people who are living very real lives whose lives don't look anything like Joe Rogan, nor do they look anything like Joe Rogan. So like, it's not about canceling him. It is about putting him and his movement in context and acknowledging that there are other movements.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.